Vice President JAGDEO says Guyana will not be honoring 2016 Paris Agreement on climate change. AURORA village shooting victim succumbs to injuries. The government moves to increase virtual court hearings. In the region, British Airways increasing flights to the Caribbean. And internationally, COVID hit Trump back in hospital after drive to greet supporters. Greetings and welcome to another edition of Channel 2 Headline News Update. I am George Gonzalez. Thank you for joining us. According to Vice President Barrett JAGDEO, Guyana will be abandoning its commitment to the 2016 Paris Accord on climate change. Bibi Bacchus tells us why in this report.
Guyana's commitment under the 2016 Paris Agreement on climate change to become 100% reliant on renewable energy by 2025 would not be possible, according to Vice President Barrett JAGDEO. JAGDEO said the government has no intentions of accomplishing that objective, and therefore that commitment has been disregarded. The government's current aim is to enhance the country's generating capacity to satisfy the increase in demand for electricity, especially as the local oil sector grows. Nevertheless, since assuming office in August of this year, the PPP has signaled its intention to resuscitate the Amila Falls hydroelectric project, maintaining that it is the most practical source of cleaner energy for the country. For a Headline News Update, Bibi Bacchus.
Thanks, Bibi. On Sunday morning, residents of No. 5 Village, West Coast Berbice, came out again in protest, calling for justice for Isaiah and Joelle Henry. They burned tires and blocked the roadway as they demanded answers regarding the case. It has been close to a month since the mutilated bodies of the teens were found in the cotton tree backland in West Coast Berbice. Although several persons were arrested, most have since been released as the police are asking persons to come forward with additional information, including the location of the primary crime scene. The residents are reportedly upset as the investigators on the case have not told the family anything in relation to it. In fact, since the arrival of the RSS team last week, there have been no public updates aside from a statement saying that members of the team have since departed Guyana with evidence to be further analyzed in a lab. The Ministry of Legal Affairs says that it has begun a program aimed at increasing the use of virtual court hearings in criminal cases. Here's more. According to a statement from the Ministry of Legal Affairs, the Guyana government is arranging a multi-agency effort to increase the speed in which cases are heard in the criminal justice system. This was decided following a stakeholders meeting held on Sunday. The principal objective of the engagement was to establish the required physical and technical infrastructure for criminal litigation to take place on virtual platforms. As such, the ministry has decided to install retrofitted containers at the Camp Street, Luzignan, New Amsterdam, and Mazaruni prisons. The release further stated, quote, "These containers will be air-conditioned and equipped with the necessary technical apparatus that will provide a link to the prisoners and the various courthouses. Once implemented, this measure will obviate the need for prisoners to be transported physically out of the prisons and taken to the various courts for their cases." End quote. Another aspect of this project is to equip select police stations across the country with the same technology to allow defendants to make their first appearance before a magistrate and other relevant legal applications. Stick around. Coming up after the break, 2 in police custody after body of Venezuelan woman found in mining pit, and Aurora village shooting victim succumbs to injuries.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
Oh gosh, what's this? Me son can't read or spell. Stop! 0 out of 20. Is what I gonna do here?
Hi guys, my name is Ms. Purja Singh and I'm the senior teacher at the literature after school program. Due to the spread of the coronavirus and the need for social distancing, we have moved our in-class learning activities to online via Skype. On the online side, we will be focusing on spelling, phonics, reading, and the National Grade 6 assessments. For more information, you can inbox us or call us.
Contact us on 675-4379.
I can call them now.
Hidden Treasures, discovering gems in young minds.
Welcome back. Esther Sobers tells us that 2 men were arrested after the discovery of the body of a Venezuelan woman was found in a flooded mining pit in Region 7.
Police arrested a miner and a dredge owner in Big Hope Back Dam, Region 7, after the discovery of the body of a Venezuelan woman in a mining pit in the area. On Sunday morning, the body of 28-year-old Venezuelan national Emilia Lamaza Farin was found half naked in a flooded mining pit. There were multiple marks of violence about her body. It is believed that Lamaza had been sharing a relationship with a dredge owner. According to police report, the dredge owner said he left Farin in the camp cooking at about 19:30 hours and went drinking at the landing with other workers, including the miner. Police said that about 21:30 hours, the miner left the gathering, saying that he was going to take a bath. The following morning, at about 6:30 hours, Farin's body was found in the mining pit. The 2 suspects are in police custody. For Channel 2 Headline News, Esther Sobers.
Thanks, Esther. On Monday, the Georgetown Public Hospital made it known that nurse Mark King could not have contracted the novel coronavirus at the hospital as he has retired from his post since July of this year. Chief Executive Officer of the GPHC, retired Brigadier George Lewis, said Mr. King retired on July 1st, 2020, and he was not working at the hospital at the time of his illness. Lewis told Demerara Waves, quote, "Since his retirement, he has not been working here. No need to quarantine anyone since he was being treated in the COVID ICU," end quote. King's death on Monday comes just a day before the date the nation's healthcare workers are expected to strike if the government does not give the Guyana Public Service Union a satisfactory response. The nurses at the GPHC are all demanding risk allowances. As being a hospital, the working environment itself puts them all at an elevated risk for exposure to the virus, and not just the nurses in the COVID ward, according to them. About 35 of the nurses picketed outside of the hospital on Monday morning to press their demands for improved conditions of work, including increased salaries and more personal protective equipment and gratuities, as well as pensions. Nevertheless, Attorney General Anil Nandalal made it known that continued protests by the nurses may lead to criminal charges, dismissals, and non-recognition of the Guyana Public Service Union. One of the victims in a double shooting in Aurora Village, Essequibo Coast last week succumbed to his wounds. Here is Bibi Bacchus with that story.
1 week after coming under gunfire at Aurora Village, Essequibo Coast, 20-year-old laborer Riaz Khan of Pomona Housing Scheme, Essequibo Coast, succumbed to his injuries. On Monday morning, he died at the Saudi Public Hospital while receiving medical treatment. On September 29, 2020, Khan and 25-year-old Cardell Grimes came under fire from persons unknown after leaving a hotel and bar in Aurora Village. The shots reportedly hit them as they were fleeing for safety. Khan was shot to the face, while Grimes was shot once in the left arm. They were both taken to the Saudi Public Hospital. Grimes is expected to make a full recovery. Khan succumbed to his injuries shortly after 12 a.m. Monday morning. His body is at the hospital's mortuary awaiting an autopsy. For Headline News Updates, Bibi Bacchus.
Thanks, Bibi. Don't go away. Coming up after the break, Chile. Protests after video showing police throw teen off bridge. And COVID hit Trump back in hospital after drive to greet supporters.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
Oh gosh, what's this? Me son can't read or spell. Stop! 0 out of 20. Is what I gonna do here?
Hi guys, my name is Ms. Singh and I'm the senior teacher at the literature after school program. Due to the spread of the coronavirus and the need for social distancing, we have moved our in-class learning activities to online via Skype. On the online site, we will be focusing on spelling, phonics, reading, and the National Grade 6 assessments. For more information, you can inbox us or call us.
Contact us on 675-4379.
I can call them now.
Hidden Treasures, discovering gems in young minds.
Welcome back. British Airways has increased the number of destinations it is flying to this October for both short-haul and long-haul routes. Among those are flights to the Caribbean, as well as a holiday deal to Barbados. Director of Network and Alliances with British Airways, Neil Chernoff, said in a statement, quote, "We're glad to be returning to more destinations this month, connecting the UK with more and more countries around the world." End quote. The airline has also launched a new route from London to Bermuda, and daily flights from Heathrow to Bermuda are scheduled to start on March 28, 2021. Protesters in Chile's capital of Santiago have faced off with police over inequality and alleged police brutality after a video emerged on Friday showing a teenager being thrown off a bridge. Al Jazeera's Sarah Kariat has more.
The voices calling for change in Chile are growing louder. Hundreds of anti-government protesters rallied in the capital Santiago, infuriated by this video that went viral on Friday. It shows a riot police officer chasing a teenager who's then thrown from a bridge and lands in a shallow canal, face down and motionless. He survived and is in a stable condition in hospital, but the pictures are being shared widely with public calls and by opposition politicians for Santiago's chief of police to resign. Police deny an officer pushed the youngster off the bridge and say much of what's being said on social media is incorrect.
We want to clarify the untrue story that this person was held over the bridge by his feet or pushed over the edge by the water cannon, as some on social media claimed they witnessed. Fortunately, there is a video that shows this unfortunate accident happening during an intense situation with a group of people causing disorder. Now the prosecutors must evaluate based on evidence.
Following Friday's incident, red dye was thrown into the canal water, symbolising blood, highlighting what protesters say has become a systematic government crackdown since last year.
Ellos provocan una violencia.
The police are violent. We can't bear it anymore. They've raped, tortured, run people over, blinded others, and now they're throwing people in the Mapocho River. The government doesn't want us to protest. It doesn't want us to gather together, but they don't care that we gather in the subway and on buses like sardines to go to work.
The government issued a statement saying it condemns any form of violence, adding that the officer in question has been removed from his post, while an investigation is underway. The UN released a 38-page investigative report condemning the government's response to mass protests a year ago against increasing public transport costs and social inequality. During the unrest, 31 people were killed and many injured. Nearly 30,000 were detained, hundreds of them reportedly being tortured and sexually abused. That prompted Chilean prosecutors to investigate thousands of human rights violations reportedly committed by security forces during the protests. Since last October, a series of cabinet reshuffles have resulted in 3 men successfully being put in charge of the Interior Ministry. But the leadership changes don't seem to have calmed protesters. The constitutional referendum is due on October the 25th. After COVID-19 restrictions since March has prevented demonstrations, calls are increasing for further protests soon. Sara Khairat, Al Jazeera.
And internationally, Donald Trump briefly left the hospital where he is being treated for coronavirus to do a drive-by for hundreds of his supporters gathered outside. One doctor working at the Walter Reed Hospital said the irresponsibility of the move was astounding. Earlier, doctors treating the U.S. president revealed his oxygen levels dropped briefly on both Friday and Saturday. Despite that, they say he could be discharged from the hospital as early as Monday. Al Jazeera's John Hendren reports.
It was perhaps the most brazen campaign stop in U.S. history. A candidate so sick with a potentially lethal virus that he has taken an experimental cocktail of drugs and at least twice supplemental oxygen, sneaking out of his hospital room and into a hermetically sealed SUV with 2 Secret Service agents waving at the fans lined up outside. As his motorcade took a victory lap on both sides of the street, he tweeted a video explaining why.
I also think we're going to pay a little surprise to some of the great patriots that we have out on the street. And they've been out there for a long time, and they've got Trump flags, and they love our country. So I'm not telling anybody but you, but I'm about to make a little surprise visit.
It was yet another classic Trump moment, and like many Trump moments, it divided America, thrilling the crowds here in the street, but alarming medical authorities who called the move remarkably irresponsible. The head of disaster medicine at George Washington University Medical Center tweeted, "That presidential SUV is not only bulletproof, but hermetically sealed against chemical attack. The risk of COVID-19 transmission inside is as high as it gets outside of medical procedures. The irresponsibility is astounding. My thoughts are with the Secret Service, forced to play." Earlier, his team of doctors emerged for another update, and the president's personal physician first explained the reason for the particularly rosy prognosis that was given 24 hours earlier, saying he was trying to reflect the upbeat attitude of medical team and president.
I didn't want to give any information that might steer the course of illness in another direction, and in doing so, it came off that we were trying to hide something, which wasn't necessarily true.
I feel much better now.
In a video tweet, President Trump said he was feeling well, a sentiment supported by his doctors, who are now saying he might return to the White House as soon as Monday. But Dr. Sean Conley confirmed what he would not in the first public briefing, that the president received supplementary oxygen on at least 2 occasions, the first on Friday.
He was not short of breath, he was tired, had the fever, and that was about it. And after about a minute, on only 2 liters, his saturation levels were back over 95%. Stayed on that for about an hour, maybe, and it was off and gone.
Another critical piece of information, that the president is now receiving the steroid dexamethasone, which is recommended only for critical care.
The dexamethasone use, again, is extremely worrying sign. The WHO, it says it's only used for critical and severe patients. It actually recommends it against people who are not serious. And NIH also says it's only for serious patients who are either on ventilators or supplemental oxygen, which Trump does barely qualify for. So he's on a really bad trajectory. I don't know if tomorrow's a little premature for discharge.
Questions continue about contact tracing in the wake of President Trump's movements earlier in the week. The White House says it is directing this in cooperation with a Centers for Disease Control team. But many who were at this crowded Rose Garden last Saturday say they have not been contacted. Authorities in Minnesota, where President Trump visited on Wednesday, say they have launched their own contact tracing program in the absence of any White House direction. A similar situation happening in New Jersey, from which the president returned after a campaign fundraiser at one of his golf clubs on Thursday, just hours before a test confirmed he was positive for the coronavirus. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Bethesda, Maryland.
That's all for today's regional and international news. Here is your 3-day weather forecast. That's it for this edition of Channel 2 Headline News Update. Tune in Wednesday at 7 p.m. for another episode. Be sure to subscribe, like, and follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Also, visit our website at headlinenewsguyana.com for all the news we couldn't fit in the newscast. Until then, take care.